remember, if you didn't and you're frustrated about it, try not to create a big story. Instead, try creating a set of actions. Drink more water is an easy one. Give yourself some rest by taking a nap. And watching your consumption. So, what you eat impacts how you sleep. What you drink impacts how you sleep. What you take impacts how you sleep. So, um, be proactive. Uh, anyway, I don't spend too much time on that. But if there's any indicator of things are going pretty well, or things are going pretty poorly, it's your sleep. So take it serious. Um, I guess I'm being a bit more kind of direct this morning because we're at the penultimate post, penultimate being second to last. So it's the second to last post before the final stanza of The Art of Peace. After tomorrow, we'll have completed 114 stanzas over 23 weeks. We started back in July. So it's a big deal. I've done this would be my third uh, Art of Peace practice. The first one culminated in the first ever Mindful Memorial Day at Arlington National Cemetery. The second one was in 2016, 2015, 2016. I think that was right. The culmination was right into the beginning of having my second child with Alina. And then this last one is ending at essentially at Christmas during a pandemic. So, there's always some kind of fascinating correlation between this practice and life events. It's one of the things that I've always been so fascinated about, was just how the stanzas themselves are quite subtle but quite profound. And they offer a framework for how to interact with, as the title suggests, your identity, your imagination, emptiness, and divinity. And as you kind of explore these aspects, things that didn't stand out in a daily experience will stand out. And it's really quite remarkable. And I always am left with the impression that life is participating with me, that it's not this emptiness out there that's just nothingness, that there is a relationship to be had. And it's very encouraging. Um, so let me just read the stanza, and then I'll break it down into identity, imagination, emptiness, and divinity, and then we'll do a training. Um, so here's the stanza. The path is exceedingly vast. From ancient times to the present day, even the greatest sages were unable to perceive and comprehend the entire truth. The explanation and teachings of masters and saints express only part of the whole. It is not possible for anyone to speak of such things in their entirety. Just head for the light and heat, learn from the gods, and through the virtue of devoted practice to the art of peace, become one with the divine. So, he says a lot there, but let's break it down into 4 parts: identity, imagination, emptiness, divinity. So, identity is something that we have really confronted a lot recently in America, I guess around the world. But this idea of who we are, what makes us what we are, um, what gives us kind of a place in life, And we all have it. We all have an identity. We all have a a kind of a place, by the very nature of being alive, being a citizen. We have a story, and that story is, it's got past and it's got future. From that identity, we have these abilities, and one of our most powerful ability is our imagination. And our imagination is kind of a narrative, and the narrative helps us put this identity into place and relationship to everyone else. um, we can get stuck there, meaning we can get stuck within our identity and our imagination, and we can create a narrative that positions us as separate from, disconnected from, in competition with. Um, we can create separation. We can do it not just from others, but we can do it from aspects of our own self. Then I mean that these two parts, identity and imagination, they also coincide, of course, with biology. But these two parts are really the two pieces of the puzzle that really struck me with going to Iraq and coming home. I really thought that I would have established a relationship to life that would kind of endow me with some skills that would would keep me from ever experiencing the type of you know downward experiences that I had felt in my past, and would protect me from feeling worthless, and give me station in life. And what I wasn't prepared for was just how loud life can get when you're up armored, when you're separating from your own self, when you're fighting your own self, when you're fighting your own mind, when you're fighting your own story, your own body, when you're fighting life. That really struck me as just, I didn't see it coming. And when I finally kind of got to a more stable place, what really did it and what continues to do it is this concept of emptiness. And the concept of emptiness is a it's not a denial of the identity and the imagination. It's an awareness of the identity and the imagination, and a positioning of them in their appropriate place, which is not at the forefront, which is um, which is more just the identity and the imagination are things that you have to have and you have to interact with, but they can be quickly empty. And by that I mean they can be quickly rendered transparent. So, if before identity and idea were imagination were here at the forefront, and I could kind of see the periphery of other things, as I began to understand emptiness, identity and imagination and everything began to be transparent. And as they began to be more transparent, they began to be less volumeric. They began to be less loud. And as they began to be less loud, what happened was, as I became more and more empty, and I describe this, the beginning process is to armor down, right? That's, you armor down your identity, you armor down your imagination, really. And so when that happens, in this identity that was really built around being tough, and not feeling things and being able to push through, and this is where I fit in, et cetera, et cetera. When all that stuff becomes transparent, then you get to see around them. So you're looking around identity and imagination, and what do you see? Well, this is what he's talking about, right? The thing about this practice of emptiness, or this another way to describe it is non-judgmental present tense awareness, or mindfulness, is that as your identity and your imagination and your body become quieter and quieter and quieter, there's less to be distracted by. And the less there is to be distracted by, the more there is to just be with. And as you are continually with what's going on, as opposed to with your imagination of what's going on or what your identity kind of needs to be going on, there's an opportunity here. And the opportunity is to see divinity, is to see God everywhere. And if you take that opportunity and do it on a regular basis, I think you cannot, it will not escape from the notion that God is with you at every moment is inescapable. And the only thing that's in the way of this divine experience on a regular basis is what we've called your armor, or what we're calling your identity or your imagination. As the armor comes down, the relationship to be had to the majesty of life, the fullness of creation, the relationship to God, to divinity, to the universe, is a real thing. It's something to be participated with. It's something to be engaged with. It's something to talk to. It's something to know at a deeper level. Now I'll just read this again, because knowing you're having a relationship to divinity doesn't mean knowing everything. It just means that there's a relationship to be had, and it's a participation. And it's not, you're not alone in this. But I'll just say, and we'll finish with this and we'll get into the training, it's vast. This relationship is beyond anything that you can articulate and anything you can comprehend. It's beyond what anybody can teach you. It's beyond the Bible. It's beyond the Torah. It's beyond the sutras. It's beyond the Eightfold Path. It's everybody has attempted to give this vastness, this infiniteness, a framework. And while everyone who tries can succeed in creating a framework, it's only walking into the framework and emptying yourself that you get to experience a part of this divine wholeness. And you can't get it all. Like, it's not something that you can figure out. It's just something that you participate with. And I encourage you to see that. And I hope that these stanzas have led you to see that, because part of the reason why this is important, and part of the reason why it's called the Art of Peace, is that life includes hard stuff. And it's not that the hard stuff needs to be fixed. It's just that it includes it. It's just there. It's just a part of the experience. And one of the things that makes the Art of Peace unique is the relationship to violence, the relationship to power, the relationship to conflict. That relationship is something that has to be addressed and worked with. And the Art of Peace does a really good job of kind of framing that part of the whole. So the final stanza will be a little bit about this whole in a more kind of, I don't know, I'm just going to give the whole more language tomorrow. But today, this final day, is I really want to give language to the relationship that you can have to the divine. And that the divine is not something that's just like some imaginary story that, ancient people passed down. There's not a whole lot of difference between now and then. Except for technology, really. I mean, most of what's happening now has happened before and will happen again. It's just different contexts. And so, we are what we've always been. We are what we're going to be. We will evolve in ways that we won't imagine, but we will still stay grounded in ways that we will always be grounded. And no matter what happens, or no matter how much we evolve, or no matter how things take place, or where we are, if we're in space or not, the relationship can be had to divinity. So I'll stop there and just say I encourage you to take that to heart. I'm not saying a particular religion or a particular path. I'm saying that in general, you should have a relationship, and whatever relationship feels the best for you, work on it. No, we don't need to read it again, but let's do training. And this is where the emptiness comes in. Fourth bell is the best version of yourself. Fourth bell is the light and heat. Fourth bell is the divine spark, and using it. Bell 1, 2, and 3 is quieting identity, quieting imagination, quieting the body, taking the armor off. And fourth bell is connecting to that light and heat, growing it, and then giving it away. Follow your cues for comfort. Heat on left knee. Saliva in the mouth. Sensation left bottom lip. Sound of fan. Quiet. Cold on the edges of my body, away from the space heater. Just quiet. Lots of quiet. Ground. Pelvis. Core. Heart space. Throat. Top of the head. Soften the muscles of the face. A little smile on there. Third bell. I'm going to do a technique called Wim Hof. It's a technique that involves a breath hold. If you've never seen it, this is what it looks like. And if you have any questions about it, shoot me an email. give this feeling of calm and peace and ease to all the souls or the spirits or the light and heat that was lost this year to suicide. I want to acknowledge the people who've taken their own lives because their bodies and their minds and their identities became so intolerable that they just had to end it. And in particular, I want to acknowledge the soul of Annie McCaffrey and the gift that a friend gave to him before he passed, which was the gift of love just in the final moment. And I believe that little gift, that little love, that little bit of love right before Andy took his own life is a little bit of light and heat that's still there and will always be there. And we'll always be able to find Andy in our hearts, and that his life will have had meaning, and that his soul will live on. And for all others who are kind of stuck in this dark place, know that there's no amount of darkness that can stop or completely turn off what is inside of us. And so there's no point where all is lost. And so I reach out to all those hearts with my heart as a jump start, a little bit of sharing of divinity with everyone else who's really, really in a bad space. And I just imagine that the light that may be dim and covered up by so much pain. And just imagine my heart connecting to their hearts, and that pain lessening a fraction, and that light growing a fraction. I didn't mention that I went. I don't know. Did I mention that I went to Andy's funeral at Arlington, Section 81, Plot 430? That was on Tuesday. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but I was thinking about him. All right. I hope you'll have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Final stanza. All right. Later, Armor Down.